Put down that water bottle and put in your mouth guard. Mike and Mick are ready to go. This is Hockey This Morning on NHL Home Ice.
Do you ever do the health hustle in school? You had to get up, early in the morning and have to do the announcements. The health hustle, it was called when I went to school. And they made you, dance beside your desk for 5 minutes to bad music.
No.
The 70s.
Do I look like I've ever done the health hustle?
Well, do I? So, yeah. Claude Giroux, I've never seen him look so big. It's the shirt you're wearing right now.
He's playing big, that's why.
He is. He's a big man.
He's playing big. Welcome back to Hockey This Morning. Time to turn our attention to the American Hockey League. The second round of the playoffs kick off tonight, and our AHL insider Bob Crawford of the Connecticut Whale, hence the music, is on the line here this morning. Good morning, Bob.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Very well. How are you?
Good, real good.
How did the best of five setup in round one work out? Anybody talking about that?
Well, I think it certainly, in the case of the Connecticut Whale, worked out great. I think, in my opinion, it sort of favors the lower-seeded team. The Whale were the 6th seed, played the 3 seed, the division champion Bridgeport, and got off to a real good start in game one on the road. Shut the Sound Tigers out 3-0, and then 2 days later we were able to do it again. And then then the third game was the very next day, and pulled off an overtime win. I think when the higher seed loses that first game at home, it really puts a lot of pressure on them with just the 5 games, and I think it made for some pretty exciting stuff, at least in the series that we went through, and everything else in the Eastern Conference form held, but Hershey gave Wilkes-Barre Scranton all they could handle, and St. John's had to go to overtime in Game 4 to beat Syracuse, and same thing with the otherworldly Norfolk Admirals to get by the 8th seed Manchester. So I think it made it pretty interesting. Maybe the teams that were the higher seeded might have argued that best of 7 is more fair, and maybe that's a better indication of who's the better team. But certainly in the case of a team like the Whale, they'll gladly take the win and 3-game sweep. And it's been a long time since it was anything but a best of 7 in the AHL, but certainly made things interesting.
So the way that Norfolk's been playing recently, does the Whale have a shot in this best of 7 series?
Well, it's going to be a big challenge, but things change so much over the course of a year in the AHL. It's interesting. You look at it on paper in terms of the record, and Norfolk should win the series easily. But you look at the first round against Bridgeport, and I don't think many observers gave the Whale a lot of a chance in that series either. And in the NHL, things can change in terms of your lineup and injuries, players getting hot that that maybe might not have been a factor earlier in the year. And the Whale have had some players come in from junior hockey that have really played well. Marek Krivik, a guy who undrafted tryout free agent from the Quebec League, had 4 goals in the first round to lead both teams. And Cam Talbot, the goaltender who was the backup all season, had back-to-back shutouts in the first 2 games of the first round, and played just outstanding. Norfolk is a team that I don't know how they could do any better than they played in the regular season. League record 28-game winning streak to end the season. I guess if you're looking at it through whale-colored glasses and you're looking for positives, the Admirals haven't had a slump all year. So the Whale are just hoping that the one slump that Norfolk has comes right now.
Interesting also to look around and see that there's only one team that is representing a franchise that's still in the playoffs in the National Hockey League. Tampa, Winnipeg, Pittsburgh, Edmonton, Florida, Toronto, Calgary, all represented here along with the Rangers. The Rangers being the only organization still in the playoffs. Are these teams stocked up a little bit thanks to the fact that their NHL team is not playing in the playoffs anymore or didn't make the playoffs to begin with?
Yeah, I think that's definitely a factor. I mean, you look at the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Hershey series. if Washington had lost that Game 7 that they ended up winning against the Bruins, then Hershey, which was down 2-0 in their series at that point, could have gotten back. Braden Holtby, Keith Aucoin, and Dmitry Orlov. And who knows if Washington would have sent Holtby back after as well as he played. But if they did, I mean, imagine being in the middle of a playoff series and you get three guys like that back. I'm such a dinosaur that I go back to the early 90s. I was doing games for the Adirondack Red Wings, which was Detroit's affiliate then, and a year that that team won the Calder Cup, 1992. They were in the middle of, I think it was a third-round playoff series, and the Detroit Red Wings got knocked out, and Adirondack in one whack got Marty Lapointe and Keith Primo and Mike Sillinger. So the things can change. There can be a real sea change to your lineup if the NHL affiliates going or they get knocked out. And interestingly, you mentioned that the Rangers are the one team that's still going, and the only player that is on the Wales playoff clear day list that could come down if the Rangers were to get knocked out is Matt Zuccarello, and he's injured right now. He's a broken wrist, so it might not even affect the Whale if the Rangers got knocked out. But yeah, potentially, I think there's no coincidence that teams that are doing well in the AHL playoffs don't have to worry about the lineup being shaken up. I guess the other side of the coin is if the Rangers were to run into some injuries, then they've got some pretty good depth right now. But the Whale could certainly get hurt real quick if the Rangers had some needs.
One of the Western Conference semifinals that catch our attention here is the hometown team, the Marlies, the Leafs farm team, taking on Abbotsford. So that's a good travel there, of course. Any team taking on Abbotsford. But my question is, I've been reading in the local papers that the Marlies have been doing all right in attendance-wise. They haven't always getting the bums in the seats. Any idea what the attendance has been like for some of these series?
Well, it's interesting, and it tends to be the form tends to be among the Canadian teams that the Canadian fans in the AHL don't get overly excited about the regular season, but get tremendously excited about the playoffs, and we're certainly seeing that in Toronto. And it sort of works the other way in many of the American markets. That once the regular season gets over with, the fans maybe aren't, generally speaking, as serious hockey fans as they are in Canada. So they were maybe coming into the American markets more for the entertainment and the night out and a way to pass the time through the winter, and they're kind of tired of it by the time the playoffs roll around, unless and until you get on a good roll and you win a round or two, and then they start getting interested again. And looking down the attendances, the Hershey Bears are sort of the flagship franchise of the entire league, and they're still cooking right along. Of course, they were knocked out in the first round, so the league's probably a little depressed by that. Averaged over 9,000 in their two home games, and the attendance is certainly nothing to complain about in most of the markets. You get down to the bottom, and a team like Chicago, which is generally a huge draw, averaged less than 3,000. Oklahoma City, which has a tremendous team, averaged under 2,500. The Whale had just under 4,000 for the one home playoff game. But yeah, right up at the top are the Marlies. The St. John's Ice Caps have been a terrific draw all year, and I think Abbotsford's ahead of their regular season average, and that should be a real good shit. It's tough for me to kind of break it down because the Whale didn't play any Western Conference teams the whole year, but you look at the records, the way the first rounds went, I think Rochester gave Toronto a pretty good battle, but that was a sweep, and the Marlies had a 3-0 shutout in Game 3, and it certainly sounds like Abbotsford is a great team. The Milwaukee Admirals, pretty darn good team in their own right, and they were swept pretty convincingly by the Heat. So yeah, for the two Canadian teams in that series, certainly should have a good battle. And the St. John's Ice Caps, the other Canadian team that's still going, it was a tremendous team during the regular year. They were 4-0 against the Whale, and the winner of the Whale series against the Admirals play the winner of St. John's Wilkes-Barre Scranton, which should be a terrific battle as well.
Bob, we appreciate you dropping by here. Enjoy round number 2, and we'll talk to you again down the line. Appreciate it.